All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And if there are any Spanish translation needs, we do have a table in the back. And then Beatrice will be back there if there's a need. But so far, I don't think there is. So I'm Donald Licamia, Executive Director of the Kaweah Basin Water Quality Association. And believe it or not, this is our 11th annual meeting that we've had. So it's been a long path to get to where we are. But as you'll see in this presentation, there are some progress and improvements that we've made all together. So that's a good thing. And one thing I thought was interesting. You have the agenda in front of you, passed out. We will go through most everything. We should be done in about an hour or so. So thank you for your patience. So, okay, I'm at Costco, and there's pallets and pallets of this beetroot supplement, and it's advertised as naturally occurring nitrates. So 300 milligrams. And we've been talking about irrigated lands. We've been talking about nitrates the fertilizer nitrates that you've all been applying. All those farmers have been applying for years. And then I go walk into Costco, and they're selling nitrates by the pallet full to the public. And so I'm going, gosh, there's some disconnect. So I said, okay, if there were to be 300 milligrams of nitrates in one gummy, and your maximum contaminant level in drinking water is 10 milligrams per liter. So if you have a soda 2-liter bottle, that'd be like, 20 milligrams in that. So that'd be the equivalent of drinking 15 2-liter bottles of maximum contaminant level nitrate drinking water out of one gummy. So I just thought it was interesting. Anyways, let's see. Administrative items, we always ask if there is anyone here from the state or the water board, please raise your hand and identify yourself. So no one here. All right. And anyone not necessarily representing a Kaweah member? This is a membership meeting. Thank you. And don't forget, sign in, drop off your card to get credit for the workshop. And then we will have a PowerPoint and this meeting video available online afterwards. So if you missed something, you can watch it again. And then the other 900 people can watch it as well that aren't here. So an update, we have 9 board of directors. 4 are appointed from and with the Kaweah St. John's Rivers Association. And 3 are elected from the membership, the growers. And 2 are appointed by the other 7, and they need to be from the ag water community. And so for this year and the coming year, they're essentially the same folks. We don't have an election. We don't have any appointment this year, but next year we will have some. And just to be clear, we did have the new board, or the officers, meaning the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer, were all appointed last week, and they will serve in that duty for another year. So that is our board. And we all take direction from them and appreciate their hard work and volunteering. They don't get paid for any of this. So, what does enrollment look like? So here's an update. In 2023, 1,075. In 2024, our membership list, which we submit in July to the water board, was 1,049. So there were 26 less members than we had a year ago. And as well, we have 760 less irrigated acres from a year ago. And we've seen from the last 10, 11 years a steady decline. And so we look at how does that compare? So here are all the membership years. Here's the current year of 24. But when you look at when we first started and signed folks up, we had 1,321, 1,302 members, as many as 163,000 irrigated acres. So we've lost almost 20% of our membership. Now that's through consolidation, through sales, retirement, and then irrigated acres, almost shy of 11,000 less acres than when we first started. So some of that went to, hey, it was a dairy that was signed up for both programs. They don't need to be signed up in both. There was some of that. There were some that went to development. There were some where, hey, they just retired the land and says, I'm not going to irrigate. I'm not growing anything anymore. It's just too hard. So, almost a 7% reduction in irrigated acres. I just wanted to share that as well. When we're looking at our preliminary assessment for 2025, we've ran some numbers. We've talked to the board about 3 times already. We've gone through different iterations. Revenue, about 1.5 million. Expenses, about 1.573 million. And so in the whole, about 73,000. Well, we've got some reserves. We're always looking at some cost savings, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. The Kaweah Water Foundation, which is kind of like our sister agency, they are the organization, not agency. They are the organization that provides bottled water to high nitrate impacted users. And so some of you may actually be even receiving water from them as well. That's almost a third of what we bring in goes out to them for supplying replacement water as bottled water or water that is used out of the drinking water kiosks as well. So, and they're required and a valuable asset to the area. The State Water Resources Control Board fee, that's the state fee that we pay on a per acre basis. Actually, that's a little bit off, but it is $150 an acre. So we pay almost $230,000 to the state every year. We do like to track our reserves and not get too far down. So there may be about 450,000 in November and 25. And we hold that in a Stifel Smart Rate account. Currently, it's earning about 4.5% interest. This is just in case if we need to install some monitoring wells, if we need to do some other types of activities that we didn't budget for the year. So our assessment right now, preliminarily looking at going from $850 an acre to $870. We will approve it. Our board will approve it next month in our November meeting, and then invoices will go out. Keeping the management fee at $75 per member, and hopefully, we can hover around this amount for quite a while. Hopefully, what does that look like year to year? In 2014, we started at $840, and as the program matured and we finished a lot of pretty technical reports and submitted that to the water board, we were able to go down a bit. And then in 2021 to 22, that's when the Kaweah Water Foundation, again, the replacement water folks, that organization was created and started. And that's where we jump back up again. So if we're going from 850 to 870, that's about where we think we might be for 2025. Where does that go? As a percentage, our preliminary budget, our expenses, administrative, so board meetings, accounting, legal, insurance, about 8%. Technical, groundwater protection targets, our nitrate and salinity control plans, working with CV salts. I'll use a lot of acronyms. They're in the back of your agenda. Regulatory advocacy, compliance and reporting as well. So a lot of technical reports annually due. There's an annual monitoring report that we have to submit as well from the monitoring that we do, which is about 17%. So we do a lot of surface water quality testing. We'll do a lot of groundwater trend monitoring testing as well. And then if we ever need to, hopefully never, install groundwater monitoring wells as a dedicated well. We're talking quite a bit with the different Sigma GSAs, so maybe there'll be some partnerships, so some overall cost savings to you as well. Growers, the outreach, like this meeting, reporting, some management practices evaluation programs, so some online training items as well. That's about 16%. And then again, as mentioned, this replacement water, about 500,000. We're spending about 33% of our entire budget on that. But it's a good program. It really shows some benefits to the public. And then our state board fee is about 16% of the total. So the invoices should be available the week of December 2nd and due approximately, we're thinking around January 17th. Now, one thing we're going to try differently, as mentioned, to try to save some costs, will be to have all our invoices, which are on there, they're on our online database, ILP Farm. You would be able to access that invoice online. We're primarily targeting those who have emails. If you have an email, we think, okay, you should be able to get your invoice online. You could even pay it online. We will mail out those who don't have email addresses. We will mail those out. So if we have to mail out about 200 of them, okay, so we don't have to mail out almost 900 pieces of paper and packages. So a huge savings, and that will hopefully, roll back into the per acre assessment and be able to balance our budget. So we're going to try that this year. Other coalitions, this is what they do already. But we do understand, the demographics of our coalitions a little bit different, and we'll test this out. Hopefully it works out okay. So we'll have more information coming out in the next couple months. So grower inspections and fines, you've seen this before. You have the water board, you have the state board, there's the Office of Enforcement. Then we have the Central Valley Regional Board that mostly we work with. We've got the Tulare Lake General Order, which is really the permit to discharge your nitrates. And then from here, they do grower inspections, possible fines, and then the association here, and then the growers. Again, we act as your intermediary, so you don't have to directly work with the water board. You are not submitting any of your reports directly to the water board. It's anonymized, so there is that protection that we've been able to preserve. So, but what happens if a grower does not do everything they need to do, which really there's not a whole lot, but say a grower does not pay their assessment, 2024 assessment, those growers have been revoked as a member, and the water board has been notified, and the water board has said that, okay, those revoked growers, they're going to be the first ones that get on-farm inspections by the state. So if you've paid, you're good. There's no worries about that. There's, a few dozen that haven't, and they're the ones who could get inspected by the state. It's not fair for all of you that a few aren't doing this when you are, paying, you're doing your paperwork, and again, we're trying to make things as easy as possible for everyone. Something new, the water board has said, thank you for increasing the mic. The water board has said that if a grower does not submit their INMP summary report, that report you submit of what happened at the last harvest year's season in March 1st, that if you do not submit that, the water board is targeting those non-submittal of the INMP also for on-farm inspections. So get your that one paperwork in for your INMP summary so you don't get on the naughty list with the water board and that you don't get inspected. Now, recently, last week and a half ago, they did submit and send out notices of violations to those growers who did not submit their INMP summary. So please be aware of that. I do want to talk now about just groundwater protection targets. We talked about that a little bit before, but this is really a big cornerstone of what we're trying to do now. And it's for gauging and protecting groundwater quality. It covers the entire Central Valley. You know, Kaweah, we're right here, Sac Valley, down to Kern County. It accounts for regional hydrology, nitrate discharge from all potential dischargers, groundwater levels, processes. So there's advanced modeling and computation that goes into it. So we have a groundwater protection formula, takes all these inputs and influences into account. And then on a township level, the values are calculated on nitrate leaching estimates. And then there are then targets to say, how clean does the groundwater need to be by a certain time frame? And so this report and methodology was submitted in 2022. It was approved last year. We need to update every 5 years. And with that, of course, we've got some new things going on. There is a lawsuit from environmental groups that don't like this. They said, oh, individual growers should be submitting stuff on their own. But we, again, want that intermediary protection of your data and information to stay private. And so we are also working with our attorneys in the Central Valley for some peer review of the groundwater protection target methodology. And that's a process that we would do with the state board. And with that, Marissa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marissa. I'm on the technical team for Kaweah Basin. Before I go over some of the technical updates, I do want to start by talking through a few of the services that we offer to growers in the community, some of which Donald's already touched on. But the first one is going back to the water kiosks, the 2 drinking water kiosks that we have that were developed in response to the 2019 settlement with the State Water Board. And that was to provide safe, free drinking water to those impacted by nitrates in their water supplies. And since going online in late 2019, over 400,000 gallons of water have been dispensed, and that's just above or just about $500,000 worth of water. So here, this graph shows the combined monthly usage of the fill stations over the last few years. And you can see that it usually peaks around the summer months and then dies down during the winter. But year-round, the stations are still providing between 4,000 to 8,000 gallons per month, which averages about 60 gallons or 600 gallons per day. So most of that water is dispensed at our Farmersville water fill station, which is located at the Kaweah Delta Water Conservation District. And that's just off of Highway 198 if you're heading towards Farmersville. And then the other fill station is located in Okieville, just north of State Route 137 on Avenue 229 in Tulare. And both of these fill stations are on Google Maps, so you can just type it in your phone and it'll take you right there. Donald did talk about Kaweah Water Foundation. So they offer free bottled water deliveries for qualifying households. So if you or anyone that you know have wells that are impacted by nitrates, you can contact the foundation to see if you are eligible to get free water bottle delivery. And then lastly, a service that we offer is nitrate testing for irrigation water. This is completely free of charge. So if you want your irrigation water tested for nitrates, and this is all confidential, you can come into the coalition's office with a clean bottle filled with water from your irrigation well and have that tested for nitrates. And then there you can use those numbers on your INMP summary reports. All right, so back to the technical stuff of the updates. So under the Tulare Lake Basin General Order, the coalition is required to conduct groundwater and surface water monitoring. This is done, groundwater monitoring is done to characterize the groundwater quality in the coalition's boundary. And we do that by testing a network of irrigation and domestic wells that are volunteered by the coalition and community members. This is done annually for nitrates, and then we look at other constituents every 5 years. And then with that, we evaluate those trends. So here on the screen, you can see an example of some of those trends. These are just two wells in the coalition boundary. The two graphs on the left, you'll see this is a well in I believe this is the northwestern corner of the coalition. And then these two graphs represent one well in the southwestern area of the coalition. And this is just, we're looking here at nitrates. We want our the results to remain above this line, or sorry, below this line. Here you can see this well is still relatively above that line, but we do see those trends starting to go down. And this one here, they are continuing to go down as well, but they are below that line. So this well's looking pretty good. Another thing that we do also evaluate is the depth to water in each of these wells, which is important when we're looking again at the constituents and the quality. Sometimes when we see the water levels increase, we expect the concentration of constituents to go down and the quality to improve. Sometimes that's not the case, but again, this is why we evaluate long-term trends, especially for groundwater. And then in addition to groundwater trend monitoring, we are doing surface water monitoring. We also need to characterize the surface water quality within the coalition's boundary. And we do that by taking samples at designated sites throughout the coalition. And with that, we will manage any issues that we are finding. So this past 2024 water year was really relatively wet year. So here we have an overview of how many sites we sampled each month. That brought us to a total of 49 samples that were pulled this year. Most of that happened during the rainy season that lasted from about February to April. And then, of course, we continued sampling throughout the summer with the dam releases, which lasted till about mid to late July. And that was a lot compared to other years, even talking prior to 2023, which was one year that we had sampled the most ever. I think we all remember 2023. But we usually sample around 12 sites, which is a lot, and then a lot less in drier years. But again, this was a relatively wet year, which came up to 49 sites that were sampled. So there's quite a bit of rain the last 2 years, which I think we can all agree is a good thing. All right. So this time last year, we talked about some of the things that we had been working on. One of those things was a surface water monitoring plan. Now, the monitoring plan outlines what we're going to do and how we're going to do that when it comes to surface water monitoring, because there's a lot of specifics that go into that. So we had gotten the plan approved earlier last year, and then we started our new sampling schedule. We started going to different sites. We have a new schedule for sampling where we're sampling less constituents, and this is all regulated by the regional board, and it was approved. So we're ensuring that we're doing our due diligence when it comes to surface water monitoring. And then finally, the last thing that we've been working on is the comprehensive surface water quality management plan. Now, the plan was approved earlier this year in April, and this plan is meant to manage for any issues that we are seeing in the water quality, because there are quite a few throughout the entire coalition. And with that approval, our next steps will be to conduct grower outreach in certain areas. Some farms are adjacent to water bodies where we're seeing these issues. So we'll kind of try and narrow down where that's coming from, and then we'll work with growers if we think it's coming from the farm or not. That's just part of this plan implementation. And then, of course, we are going to be required to conduct a source identification study for certain constituents to, again, source down where they're coming from. Right? Now, with that, I'll hand this over to Ryan, who's going to talk about the INMP summary reports.
Good afternoon. Name is Ryan Dodd. Good to see everybody again. Going to talk about some grower nitrogen reports. Just a pretty brief update. If any of y'all remember, dating back to 2015, when some of the initial nitrogen reporting began, We did a little trial run, it was called, and then we started up the nitrogen reporting in about 2016. So I don't know if anyone remembers that time there when we first started that nitrogen management plan. Feels like a long time ago now. But now we have an irrigation and nitrogen management plan. And at various meetings throughout the years, we used to spend a lot of time up here, me and others, talking about these forms, calculations, a lot of equations, and a lot of technical things. Fortunately, we haven't been doing so much of that these days because we feel that most folks are getting in a habit of how to do this paperwork and the calculations and the forms, or you're having your certified crop advisors or other consultants do it for you. So all that to say is all these nitrogen reports in terms of how to fill out the forms, this is the only slide we have directly on that. So you're welcome. But I just wanted to say that there we have literally probably several hours of videos still on how to fill those out. So those have been there for a number of years now. So if you're uncertain on how to fill out the forms, how to do the calculations, things like that, you can go and watch, 3 or 4 hours of amazing videos on how to do that. So those are still there for you, but we're not talking about that today. But those are still due March 1 every year. So as it says there on the screen, March 1 is that key date. So what do we do with some of those data that we get that you all submit to us every single year? Again, this is mostly a summary of previous years, but it is that time of year again where we, as of today, your next nitrogen analysis report, or a NAR, or almost what I've wanted to call it more recently as a nitrogen outlier report, because it's mostly summarizing your outliers. And so what this is a report that you submit your INP summary report data to the coalitions. We analyze it, clean it up. If we need to call you to clean stuff up, we do. But then we do a bunch of calculations and analysis on it and prepare like a nitrogen report card in a way. And that's basically what this is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Hopefully, most of y'all have seen this before, this report. But just a quick reminder, this is ILRP Farm, the online portal, where you could submit your information, but also access your nitrogen analysis report. There's a couple different ways there on the screen. You can access that, either that orange bar there with that green arrow, or over on the left toolbar there when you're looking at the screen, nitrogen analysis reports. So that's how you can log into the portal to access this report that I'm talking about right now. And all the previous years are on there as well, at least since 2021. So zooming in on the NAR, what does this look like? This is just explaining, showing just the top part of the screen there. There is an outlier summary table at the top here that just shows you how, if you're an outlier each year and how many outlier fields you have. You can print your NAR via this red button there, and this drop-down menu, you can select previous years. And then there's just some frequently asked questions there at the top to help you navigate and understand what this NAR is if needed. At the very top part of the actual report itself, there is a outlier summary. So if you're an outlier, you'll be a big red outlier button there. Think of a stoplight approach. Green is good, yellow is kind of in between, a warning, and red is, let's say, bad in this case, or an outlier. And so in this case, this example, this was an outlier grower, but if they were not, this would be green and it would say not an outlier. And so you could review your outlier fields there. And then down below that, if you have 100 fields, there'll be 100 rows there summarizing every part of those data. And you can go through and see your information. You can see your nitrogen applied, your crop yield, some calculated values of nitrogen removed, and then this A over R ratio, which we've talked a lot about, which is applied nitrogen divided by crop nitrogen removal. And that's basically what being an outlier means, if that ratio, that proxy of nitrogen efficiency is high or not compared to other growers of that same crop in the Kaweah Basin. And so every reported field is summarized here. So if you want to go through and take a look at that. But in general, just a high-level reminder of that report, but just a summary here is these reports are now available for the most recent crop harvest year. So as of today, so you can go and access those, check them out. But really, what are we trying to get out of these? What are the objectives of this report? One, it's required. So this is something we're doing to maintain compliance with the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program. We really want you to review this NAR before starting your next year's INP worksheet. So now go in, look at this a little bit. If you have some outlier fields, try to fix them. There may be good reason there's an outlier, there may be not. But if you have some outlier fields, review options, call the coalition, I can chat with you others, and we could talk to a certified crop advisor, others, and try to see if we could do something about that. Because ultimately, we don't want to be an outlier. And then just know that Donald mentioned groundwater protection targets. That's another regulatory metric that's coming, and it is going to probably ultimately supersede this whole outlier process, but we're not quite there yet. So just know that there will be some changes coming. And then just my last slide here to go over. So some of these meetings I could talk about where have we been, where are we at, and where are we going. And so this is just a quick summary I threw together about outlier fields for the Kaweah Basin. Maybe a little hard to see here, but 3 different ways to look at this. We have the number of outlier fields here. Then we have the number of outlier members in this chart, and then the number of acres in this chart here. So essentially, we want to minimize the number of outlier fields because that suggests that growers are being inefficient with their nitrogen use and potentially impacting groundwater quality. That's ultimately a main part of the point of the Irrigated Lands Program is to protect groundwater quality. So we want to minimize these number of outliers. So are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Well, since 2021, you can see here all 3 graphs show a pretty good reduction to 2022. So that's green, that's good. That's a great job. That's what we want to see. Ideally, we'd want to see 0, but unlikely that's going to happen. But then, we also see a slight tick upwards in 2023. So, not much, we'll just say basically it was the same the previous year. But here at the acres, we did see a slight reduction in acres, about 1,000 acres from 2021 to 2023, which is a good thing. So this is the type of stuff that the regulators look at. They don't want to see outlier fields. They don't want to see inefficient nitrogen users. And so this is just some of the data and information that both the coalition and the regulators are looking at. So with that, that's all I got. Pass it back over to Donald.
All right, we're going pretty fast. So I'm going to talk a lot slower now. Okay, so the outreach and education requirement for a member, you have to do this once a year. And typically we want that recorded by our mid-July-ish time frame of next summer. By being at this meeting, turning in your card, either registering, you've already done that. So you're done with this for the year. So congratulations. So what other workshops do we have going on? There's quite a bit going on right now. As you recall, there's the on-demand, meaning on a computer. There's the INMP self-certification training that's been going on for a few years. For those of you who are self-certified, there's that available online. There's something new that in late January 25, we have the Water Efficiency Technical Assistance Workshops, or the WETA workshops. Have more information on that. And then the UC Cooperative Extension has got a grant, and they're doing Nitrogen and Irrigation Initiative workshops as well. And then, again, the grower reports, we have all those online, as Ryan mentioned. You could watch those videos again and then just be refreshed and updated again on what you have to do for your March 1st requirements. And then annual membership meeting, this meeting, again, we'll have it in October of 25. So the INMP self-certification training, just again, on-demand access. There's a website there. If you are self-certified, this is where you can go. You can self-study. There is some links as well to some ongoing continuing education hours that are required. And so that's that training. And then again, the new one, as mentioned, is this WETA training. And it's irrigated water nitrogen management. And one of the meetings will be in this very room here. It is a day and a half long. It is free and lunch is provided. Again, a grant is paying for this, and you can come here. It'll be January 29th for the first day, 8:30. Water quality regulatory landscape overview, some crop-specific efficiency and nutrient management content. I believe there's going to be some breakout sessions. So if you're an almond grower, you can break out with the almond growers, and then they'll talk nutrient management and efficiency for almonds, for example. And then day 2, more of a tutorial support tool. Some of you may be using Crop Manage. That's a tool that is real useful with regards to irrigation water applied, nutrient applications. And so it's a great online tool. And so there's training on that. The other workshops and trainings are from the Nitrogen Irrigation Initiative. These include on-farm grower consultations. They're doing some on-farm trials. There's some training events. There are educational resources as well. Contact either May Columber or Mohammed Yagmar or email them. But their website does show some of these training sessions. Let me go back real quick. On this one, there are also 2 other sessions outside of the one here in Tulare. There's a identical training session in UC Kearney in Parlier in Fresno County, and there's another session in Kern County as well. So there's 3 of these going on, and we're lucky to have one here. Back to the NII, again, their website explains quite a bit. If you're having some questions and issues and you want somebody to come on farm, they will come out. Just notify them. They've already conducted about 300 on-farm consultations. This includes essentially the southern San Joaquin Valley and the Central Coast. They've had 5 field days, 43 farm trials, 60 educational events, and about 3,400 participants already. And so we are excited that, hey, let's get some of this going on in Tulare as well. Other tools and resources. So as Ryan mentioned, hey, what if I have an outlier? I want to be a little more educated on what I can do to help resolve some of those. CDFA has some great fertilizer guidelines by crop. And again, the Nitrogen Irrigation Initiative and the WETA trainings, all of these can help you get a little more informed about what you can do on your farm. And then we also have the Southern San Joaquin Valley Management Practices Evaluation Program. And that website here, we've got some great tools and some additional outreach materials for you there as well. And now we have Emma, who something a little different. They had a booth last year. We didn't do any vendors this year, but there is the Kaweah Subbasin Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program. How does that tie to water quality and ag water quality? Well, as you saw in a lot of our reductions in acreages and farms, entities, gosh, what can I do as a farmer? I'm not getting this much water because of the GSA or Sigma. It's just costing too much for all the inputs to farm. So this is a different approach. There's some cost sharing and availability to, for example, put in a recharge basin on your property and get essentially some benefit from that. And so, Emma?
Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for having me. Thank you to the Kaweah Basin Water Quality Association for this opportunity. And my name is Emma Adest, and I'm here on behalf of the Kaweah Delta Water Conservation District, who is the grantee for the Kaweah Subbasin's Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program. And on the slide up at the moment, we have all the organizations involved in the Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program, or MLRP, and specifically the East Kaweah GSA, the Mid Kaweah GSA, the Greater Kaweah GSA, and the Water Conservation District are great thought partners in this program, and they're the group that is the decision-making entity for this program. Just giving some quick background on MLRP at the state level. This is a Department of Conservation program, and their goal is really to
gather and implement true multi-benefit programs and projects in each sub-basin where they've awarded a grant. So the Kaweah sub-basin has a grant for the MLRP, and some of their purposes are to support groundwater sustainability, which includes groundwater recharge and improving groundwater quality, assisting ag land transitions, so a lower use crop implementation to decrease water usage, creating or restoring wildlife habitat, disadvantaged community benefit projects, and reducing the impacts of groundwater depletion on, folks' lives, the economy, and their property. So a ton of potential benefits and a lot of flexibility in this program. And just a note on MLRP's general situation under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. There's a lot of challenges that folks are having to deal with and address under SGMA. We're certainly aware of that. And MLRP doesn't have enough funding as a program to help address all of those challenges, but it can offer a tool in order to repurpose land or implement lower water use actions. So it's one of the many tools that growers could use in order to fall under compliance under SGMA. So I want to share a little more information about the projects that we have approved and contracted in the Kaweah Subbasin for MLRP. We have 5 projects under contract. They're doing planning work currently. So these are the projects you might see in your community or start hearing about. All of these projects have a groundwater recharge component, as that's what folks were interested in submitting applications for. And those projects really ranked competitively under MLRP. And another thing that made these projects rank competitively is adding additional benefits to their project design. So the Matthews Ditch Basin, for example, that's a groundwater recharge project in between the city of Visalia and the community of Patterson Tract. It's located right off the river, so they can recharge flood flows in wet years. They also were able to add a trail into their plans for public access, and they are agreeing to add some ecological restoration into the project as well. So being able to think about multiple benefits in a project will make an application for that project more competitive. So we released a competitive project solicitation for all these implementation projects. These are the ones that were chosen and are doing planning and permitting work now. We have another opportunity available under the Kaweah's multi-benefit land repurposing program, and this is really an advance notice of this solicitation that we haven't released yet. So we want to make this available as an advance notice before we release the solicitation, so folks can start thinking about if you have a project idea that might be applicable. So we have approximately $1 million to release for development projects, which means a project that would accomplish planning, permitting, and environmental compliance work. And then that project, we'd help the project search for additional funding for implementation or the groundbreaking work. And so landowners, GSAs, nonprofit organizations, public agencies, and tribes could apply. We are anticipating to release this solicitation in very late 2024 or early 2025. And we'll have a several month project solicitation window, and we'll close that in late spring 2025. Again, this is an advance notice, and we will be posting the official solicitation publicly. We can provide that through the Water Quality Association networks. We want to make sure that information is available. And probably the most important part here is we'll have a technical assistance pathway available as well. So Self-Help Enterprises Capacity Development Team is joining us to offer assistance. That assistance is primarily meant to help folks develop an application for this development solicitation. So if people have a project idea, we want to hear about it, get in contact with us, and we'll help develop that project idea into an application that can be submitted. So we want to hear about what the projects are that you might know for your land. You know what would work on property the best. So if you just have a thought, if you just have an idea, we really encourage letting us know about it. And here's some eligible project types. It's not at all limited to what is up here, but just to provide folks an idea, the multi-benefit groundwater recharge has proved the project that folks are most interested in the Kaweah subbasin, but creating or restoring habitat, transition to dryland farming or cover cropping, non-irrigated rangeland, reestablishment of tribal uses, renewable energy projects, or creation of community recreation areas, among other potential project ideas. And finally, my email is up here, emma@valley.eco. We've got a phone number you could call. You can also contact the Kaweah Delta Water Conservation District for information about the program. And I will be around if you want to come find me, ask me questions, get my business card. Again, we'll provide the official development project solicitation information when we release it, but wanted to make folks aware of this upcoming opportunity. And thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, Emma. Just real quick. So how does this tie to water quality? I mean, if we look way back over here. A 200-foot deep well. Okay, nitrate levels have gone down in 2023, 24. We had a lot of rain, had a lot of recharge, a lot of pumps got shut off because we had surface water. Here is a 60, 70-foot depth well. The levels of nitrate in that water from 23 to 24 and further. I mean, it just, not only the improvements that we're making with regards to the nitrogen applications, but then the recharge, the other benefits of just having a full circle, multi-benefit type of infrastructure in Kaweah is helpful for all of us. So that's the connection. So next we have, to wrap things up, Steph Moreno. Many of you have talked to her many times. I do not understand how she can memorize everyone's name, but she does. So Steph, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Steph Moreno. I'm part of the administrative team here. There's Courtney, Mary, Austin, Beatrice, and myself. We've been helping many of you since the inception of the Kaweah Basin back in 2014. Just a little bit of takeaways that we wanted to touch base with. Remember, please, because we do get phone calls about this, especially today, growers are subject to fines, violations, and on-farm inspections. There were about 90 folks that received notices of violations for the INMP summary reports that didn't get submitted. Also, 2025 invoices and technical requirements packages will be going out early December. Please remember they are going to be placed into ILRP form. We will not be emailing. We are not going to be mailing them. If you have an email address, please call the association or email us with any updates that need to happen before December. Invoices will be due on January 17th. We are revoking members at the February board meeting. And if there are issues or questions, give us a call. We're always happy to help, and we're always ready to assist you. INMP and INMP summary reports for the 2024 harvest year are due by March 1st. Please, for everybody's sake, especially for ours and Courtney's, submit them by March 1st. Or if there's questions, there's issues, please let us know. Review your NAR. ILRP farm, if we need to reset your password, give us a holler or email us. And there will be multiple 2025 workshops occurring throughout the year, starting in January. Make sure we have your right contact information. And then I'm going to pass it over to Donald so we can start answering questions.
Thank you, Steph. Again, our contact information. And if there are any questions, either you can come up afterwards or ask them now. We have some mics.